So Marina Mabrey has responded to the to everything that's going on.
Marina Mabrey just looked like she was just unhinged out there after looking at this, man.
The game between the Sun and the Fever turned into total chaos. There were 6 technical fouls. 3 players were ejected and 2 flagrant fouls were called all in one crazy night. But the moment that really got everyone talking happened when Marina Mabrey shoved Caitlin Clark to the ground for no clear reason. Surprisingly, she wasn't thrown out of the game. On the other hand, Sophie Cunningham was ejected right away, and fans quickly called out the clear double standard. That kind of inconsistency just makes things worse.
Are here the night after WNBA fight night. Sophie Cunningham putting JC Sheldon in a clinch. Marina Mabrey targeting Caitlin Clark.
If you were already angry, just wait until you hear how Mabrey reacted after the incident. Do you think the league should follow its rules and suspend her? Share your thoughts in the comments. Marina Mabrey should have been ejected if the referees saw what happened. They just needed to watch the replay and make the call.
All they had to do was just eject her. All they had to do was eject her and none of this happens. If the referees had ejected Marina Mabrey, nothing else happens. The Sophie Cunningham situation does not happen.
After everything calmed down, the league quietly changed Mabrey's foul to a flagrant 2. There was no press release or big announcement, just a small update on the league's website. Now the big questions are, how did the referees miss it during the game, and why did it take so much public outrage for the league to respond? More importantly, will Mabrey be suspended, like many commentators suggested she should be during the broadcast?
So, like, there are 4 players fined in that game. 4 players fined in that game, but the referees, the scariest part about all this is that the referees came out with their report. They came out with their report and said, the contact made by Mabrey did not rise to the level of ejection. Additionally, it did not meet the criteria for a flagrant 2 penalty. And it was given as a technical foul, not even a flagrant, by the way.
We're going to explain how and why the WNBA went against its own referees, and whether that decision helped the situation or made it worse. But first, let's take a closer look at the shove that started all the drama.
A lot of it is centered around the last 46 seconds where Sophie Cunningham hard fouls JC Sheldon. She gets ejected, JC gets ejected, does Lindsay? I think Lindsay gets ejected. And in watching the broadcast, even the broadcasters at the time mentioned if they would have just ejected Marina Mabrey, this probably wouldn't have happened.
Let's be honest, it was a hard, unexpected hit. Caitlin Clark didn't see it coming. She was focused on the game, turned her head, and suddenly got knocked to the floor. It didn't look like a regular foul, it felt personal. The crowd reacted right away, and the commentators were shocked. Everyone thought it would be called a flagrant foul, maybe even an ejection. But instead, Mabrey only got a simple technical foul, and the game went on like nothing happened. The broadcasters were shocked, the players were angry, and fans were furious.
So Caitlin Clark gets poked in the eye. Marina Mabrey doesn't even see what happens, and she just decides to clean Caitlin Clark out of it. And the referees just said, nah, it was not worth an injection. So Caitlin dribbles. Look at how far she is away from the ball, by the way. Look at how far she is away from the ball. Like, that's literally, she's nowhere near the ball. She just jumps at her face. And then she belly bumps Caitlin. Caitlin retaliates by shoving in an unsportsmanlike manner, according to the referees. And then Marina Mabrey comes from nowhere.
Within minutes, the video was all over social media. Everyone was asking the same thing. How is she still in the game? What were the refs even watching? And it wasn't just Caitlin Clark fans, it was neutral viewers, former players, and analysts, all saying the same thing. The officials were losing control of the game. What made it worse was that Sophie Cunningham was thrown out right away for a hard play. That wasn't nearly as bad as what Mabrey did.
At this angle, you can see just how far JC Sheldon is away from the ball. The ball's here. She's hitting Caitlin Clark in the face here. If you guys are looking at my cursor, I'm sorry I can't make this bigger. My cursor. She hits Caitlin Clark here. The ball's here. The ball is 3 feet away from Caitlin Clark's face. And she just targets the face. She targets the face. Like, I don't know if there's any other way to describe it. Like, this is clearly, she just lunged at her face. She went nowhere near the ball. She lunges forward. She absolutely, positively, zero doubts about it, lunges at Caitlin Clark's face.
She clearly aimed for the face. There's no other way to put it. She didn't even try to go for the ball. She just lunged straight at Caitlin Clark's face. No doubt about it. The difference in how the rules were enforced was hard to ignore.
I don't see how you can say that any other way. She literally lunged at her face, and then Caitlin's there walking away, and she belly bumps her. Like, by the way, Caitlin with the shove. Caitlin does not move JC Sheldon. If you look at this angle, you can see Caitlin Clark does not move JC Sheldon. They're like, Caitlin shoved Sheldon. Caitlin literally, JC Sheldon's still moving forward. So JC Sheldon is the one who initiates the contact and then chases her, and Marina Mabrey comes from nowhere.
People kept asking, are the refs just guessing before every call? Because if the rules were applied the same way for everyone, there's no way Mabrey should have stayed in the game. But the confusion didn't stop when the game ended. That's when the WNBA started trying to clean up the mess.
She ended up stating this: Marina Mabrey's technical from last night's Fever Sun game has been upgraded to a flagrant 2. Oh man, the league told ESPN a flagrant 2 comes from a standard fine. Additionally, Sophie Cunningham was fined separately for her hard foul with 46 seconds to play.
That's right, the league later said, actually, we've changed it to a flagrant 2. Which was basically their way of admitting, oops, our refs messed up. If they had made that call during the game, Mabrey would have been ejected. No questions asked. Fans saw it as proof that the referees didn't just make a small mistake, they got it completely wrong.
People are calling for Sophie Cunningham's ejection from the league. People are commenting on her Marina Mabrey stuff.
The league said Mabrey should count it as excessive and unnecessary force. Okay, fair, but why wasn't that clear during the game? The refs had a perfect view, no excuses. Even someone half watching could tell it crossed the line. Which brings up a bigger question. Was this just one bad call? Or is the WNBA facing a serious problem with its officiating?
It's kind of, frustrating to see the hypocrisy everywhere in all the spaces when it comes to the Indiana Fever, because I'm seeing the same people saying, and the same people in the media, the same people in social media, which social media doesn't really count and it shouldn't, but these are filtering to people in the mainstream media saying it was a physical league last season to Sophie should be ejected and her spot should be considered in the league, and calling her out on all these physical plays that were totally excusable until the Indiana Fever do them.
And it wasn't just that one moment. Caitlin Clark got a technical foul just for reacting after someone scratched her in the eye. Sophie Cunningham was fined and penalized for a play that didn't look nearly as bad as Mabrey's. It felt like the refs were using a different rule book for every call. If Mabrey had been ejected when she should have been, the whole game would have felt different. Instead, the league tried to fix things later after the damage was already done.
There's no way y'all coming after the game and then now you're saying, oh, it should have been a flagrant 2. Oh, we should have. Look, you're catching the smoke and now you want to change it. You need to do it during the game. All right, during the game, go ahead and call it the way it is, man. Stop with the nonsense.
How can players and fans trust what's happening on the court when the rules seem to change every minute? The gap between what refs call during the game and what the league decides after reviewing plays keeps getting bigger, and the worst part, the refs and the league can't even agree on what counts as a flagrant foul. That's not just a bad look, it's a real problem. So, who's really responsible for this mess? The refs making the call in real time, or the league stepping in only after people got upset? All attention turned to referee Ashley Gloss, who explained after the game that she didn't think Marina Mabrey's shove was serious enough for a flagrant 2 or an ejection. That's why Mabrey only got a technical and stayed in the game. Gloss stood by her decision, saying it didn't cross the line in her view.
Did not rise to the level of an ejection. Additionally, it did not meet the criteria for a flagrant foul penalty 2.
But less than 24 hours later, the WNBA quietly changed the call, upgrading the foul to a flagrant 2. That sudden change says a lot. It's not just fixing a mistake, it's openly disagreeing with their own refs. And now the big question is, how does a play go from not serious enough to ejection worthy in just a few hours?
With this statement saying, yeah, it was a flagrant 2.
Right away, social media exploded. Videos were everywhere with captions like, what are these refs even watching? Fans and analysts were trying to make sense of the mixed decisions. It wasn't just Ashley Gloss and her crew being questioned it. With the whole league, is the WNBA really following its own rules? Or just reacting to public pressure? Are they fixing mistakes honestly? Or just trying to calm people down after a backlash?
This just clearly shows me the referees need some schooling, man. Okay? They need some schooling. You had these referees out here clueless, man. And I was wondering what was taking them so long to call the right call. I swear to you, man, we lived 2 lifetimes before they came back and said what they needed to say about the nonsense that happened.
The game was already intense with 6 technical fouls, 3 ejections, and a bunch of rough plays. But what stood out was the technical foul called on Caitlin Clark. She got it for unsportsmanlike behavior after she reacted to getting poked in the eye and bumped by J.C. Sheldon during a dead ball.
The question was, why did Caitlin Clark get a technical foul? She ended up coming back and saying, after the foul by Sheldon, Clark reacted in an unsportsmanlike manner towards Sheldon. Huh?
How does that even compare to a clear, intentional shove from behind? Then there's Sophie Cunningham's ejection. She made a tough but well-timed foul, got thrown out right away, and was even fined later. Meanwhile, Mabrey's much more obvious. Foul was treated as less serious during the game, only for the league to quietly upgrade it afterward.